back, everybody, to Pure Picks. I'm your host, James, and we're here to break down UFC Fight Night, Whittaker versus Aliskerov, coming up this Saturday, June 22nd. It's going to be in Saudi Arabia. Going to be an early card, so super excited for this. Before we get into this fight night, I did want to recap the previous fight night that we had. Let's go ahead and look at that right now. So, overall, Tyra versus Perez, that fight night, we were down 1.27 units. So after a run of positive events, finally had a negative night overall. Probably should have saw this one coming. We were getting a little bit overconfident in some of our plays. As you guys can see here, we started playing some round props. Kind of went away from what has gotten us here, which were straight picks, parlays. So I think obviously we just ran on a heater and kind of cooled down, got humbled a little bit that night. Going over some of my plays, let's go over some of them right now. So, first one, some good news actually. You know, we had Tyra. I think we had him at minus 185, so we got the Pico bottom right there for Tyra. Manes obviously was a lock, over 2.5. I saw that as a lock as well. So that parlay hit for plus 138. Good play there. Second play that I had was under 2.5 for Tyra. I thought that fight was going to go under. I didn't expect it to go under like that, but still cashed at the end of the day. So I think that still was a good pick. And just overall on Tyra, by the way, I mean, you know, we did have another play on him at Tyra, scorecards equal no action. So if he finished the fight, we got that. If it went to decision, it would just be a push and we get the units back. I thought Tyra was a lock, and you know, round one, yes, Perez won round one, but just looking at the fight again, I think that Tyra was landing the cleaner shots. I mean, Perez was definitely landing, but a lot of his shots were, I would say, either getting blocked or Tyra was just eating them. And I think Tyra just has some super good durability. I mean, underrated in my opinion. I think it's gonna take a lot to finish this guy. So I'm glad that we're on the Tyra side for that week. Some of the losses that I do want to talk about, Garrett Armfield. Can't believe I trusted this guy. I parlayed him with Tyra. I wish I just went with Miles Johns. That's what I originally wanted to do, but I got scared off on that, and I bought into the Armfield hype. At no point in that fight did he look like a minus 200. Even with that good second round, I mean, that Brady Heinstein, relentless. So that was a bad play by me for going with Garrett Armfield in that spot. Other plays that I think that's pretty much it. I mean, oh yeah, the Nate Manez round one. I bought into the hype there too. I thought Jimmy Flick was just gonna get finished, and obviously that didn't happen. So once again, the props for me at least didn't hit. Trusting Garrett Armfield was really the ultimate kind of money losers there. But overall, I mean, that was really 1.88 units loss. We still gained the 1 unit here for Tyra inside business decision, no action. And we got the Tyra parlay there for plus 138. So, you know, overall as a group, we did not that great, but I think that there's just some things that we need to fine tune for this week. And I think we're going to get on another positive week. So I'm looking forward to it. Overall, we're still 10% ROI, 22% on straight picks. The props have been killing us at minus 7%, so we need to really work on that. The parlays, I think 11% on parlays is really good. So overall, we're still doing pretty well on the year. I mean, 21 units profit so far. And this started, by the way, in November 2023. So I still think we're doing good as a group. But I'm just super excited for this fight card. I mean, Whittaker versus Aliskerov. Initially, when I first saw this, I believed that it was going to be somewhat of a trappy card, but after doing more due diligence, doing more research, doing more analysis, I think a lot of the favorites are probably going to cash this week. So strategy for this week at least is going to be picking some of the closer money line plays for the favorites. Not paying too much juice, obviously, but if I do want to pay that juice, probably going to look to parlay some of these heavy favorites. So let's get into it, guys. First fight on the night. This is going to be the road to the UFC championship. That's why it's called title fight right here. It's going to be Zhao Long versus Chang Ho Lee. Not much tape on these guys, honestly. I mean, there's going to be a big experience disadvantage here for Zhao Long. Um, I think the pick here will be Long Zhao or Zhao Long here. I like Zhao's experience and just overall well-roundedness to prevail over Chang Ho Lee. I mean, Chang Ho Lee, he does have a decent well-roundedness to him as well, but I don't think he's as defensively sound as Long and Long Zhao, and especially when it comes to the grappling department. I think that also both these fighters, this will be technically their UFC debut in a way, but Xiao actually lost to Christian Quinones in the Dana White Contender Series, and he has 34, 33 fights compared to Lee's 10 fights, right? So I would just recommend passing on this, but I could get persuaded to play Zhao Long here. I do think he's going to win via decision. The over 2.5 could be intriguing. It's minus 200. Actually, let's look at the odds. We didn't really talk about that. Zhao Long actually opened up at plus 150. Now he's a minus 112. I actually love it when I see that, because when underdogs become favorites and the line flips, from what I've seen in my experience tracking these kind of movements, the one that flipped to the favorite usually wins. Not It doesn't happen all the time, but it usually does play out to be true there. So I could definitely be persuaded in playing Zhao Long here. Um, Over 2.5 once again, minus 200. Not too much action there, But I do think that most likely will hit. Ultimately, I would recommend just passing on this fight, because this is going to be a lower level fight. Anything could happen. I can't put a lock on anything in this fight, so I'm just going to pass on it. But the pick here will be Zhao via decision. Let's move on to the next fight, guys. So the next fight that we have is going to be a light heavyweight matchup. We have Magomed. I'm going to try to say this right. Gadzhiyasulov versus Brendson Ribeiro. I'm just going to call him Magomed. Odds for this fight, we're seeing here that Magomed is minus 310, open up at a minus 450. This is another fight where, I think for now, I'm leaning towards passing, but I'm siding with Magomed in this spot. Ribeiro just has a lot of defensive deficiencies in this matchup. I mean, I think he just lacks the basic defensive striking tools. He's just more than happy also to accept bottom position once taken down. Just two red flags for me for a matchup against a fighter like Magomed. Magomed should be able to piece Ribeiro up on the feet. However, if he goes into his wrestling bag, I think Ribeiro will likely be controlled there for the majority of the fight. Magomed's also good at transitioning to favorable control positions on the ground, and he also remains active with ground and pound. The only hesitations that I have on Magomed is Ribeiro could definitely catch him. I mean, this is a fight at 205. Ribeiro does have some KO power, and technically this will be Magomed's first fight in the UFC, another UFC debut, and I generally don't like backing UFC debuts. So pick here is going to be Magomed via KO, but I'm going to pass on this fight too, unfortunately. But I could also be persuaded in parlaying him, but we'll see what happens. But right now, I'm going to pass on this fight too. Moving on to the next fight, guys. So we have a bantamweight matchup. We have Kang versus Muin Gafurov. Kang, I think that for this fight, I'm going to go with Gafurov here. Kang just has shown me some signs of decline at age 36. I think he's gonna be past his prime for now. I don't think he's gonna come back to the prime. Gafurov has a clear path to victory, and I expect him to just constantly shoot for takedowns and make the fight uncomfortable for Kang in the grappling department. I think it's gonna be very similar to how Sexy Mexi John Castaneda beat Kang in the last fight. He's gonna just push out the activity, push out the takedowns, grappling. I think Kang is just going to be uncomfortable. Kang does have some clean striking, though. I mean, I think his grappling skills are just going to be tested here, and I feel like he's going to be a victim of lay and pray for the whole fight. So The pick here is going to be Gafurov via decision, but I'm going to pass for now. And one of the big reasons why is that I still don't trust Gafurov completely. This guy's 1-5 in decisions, and I see this fight going to decisions. So yeah, I'm going to pass on this for now. Looking at the odds, actually, I didn't talk to you guys about that. Gafurov opened up at a -160, now it's a -160. So there has been some dog action taken on Kang, but yeah, I don't see this fight as being too pleasing for me as far as making a play here. So passing on this fight. All right, so let's get into this fight, and this is going to be where I think I'm going to make my first recommended play here. We have Rinat Fakhretdinov versus Nicolas Dalby. Looking at the odds for this fight, we have Rinat at -350, open up at a -400, so there has been some dog action taken on Nicolas Dalby. I definitely can see why. I mean, this guy's a dog, definition of dog, especially in his last fight against Gabriel Bonfim. But looking back at this fight, I mean, I gotta go with Rinat in this matchup. You know, even though there's going to be a lot of recency bias here, right? Because Rinat is coming off a majority decision draw where he won the first 2 rounds and almost got finished in the last round against Lizu dos Santos Zaleski. And Zaleski almost finished that guy. So we just saw Dalby do the exact same thing to Bonfim, where Bonfim was gassed out in round 2 and Dalby finished him. I think ideally there's just going to be too much wrestling here for Dalby. I think Rinat's just going to come straight in. He's not even going to mess with the striking. He's just going to straight up out grapple this guy. And Tim Means controlled Nicolas Dalby. It wasn't all on the ground, but he controlled him for 8 minutes in their fight. That was the last time that Nicolas Dalby lost. I think that was his only loss in the UFC. And if Tim Means can do that, I think Rinat can do that. Rinat has the tools in this matchup to either wrestle Dalby to a decision win or maybe even find a submission. Also, I mean, Dalby has a 60% takedown defense. I feel like that can be exploited. So, although Dalby is a dog and, you know, has the game of a dog, this guy's 39. We can't discount that fact. I mean, that's 39 is getting really close. That's really close to 40. He's not getting any younger. So, I think the next moment he steps in the cage, just the odds of him looking washed increase. And I don't think I want to take that chance on Nicolas Dalby. So give me Rinat here. I personally think he's a parlay piece. So I think this guy's he's gonna do it. I think Dalby's gonna lose this fight. Let's move on to the next fight here. So we have Muhammad Naimov versus Felipe Lima. You know, this was one of the new additions to the fight card. I think Naimov was supposed to fight Melsik, but Melsik pulled out for injury. Let's look at the odds for this fight. So we have Naimov opened up at a -250 and instantly kind of became a dog here. So that's a little interesting right there. He has been since played to a -125, so people were taking that dog action on Mooney. I agree with taking that dog action on Mooney. Give me Naimov in this fight. There's a lot of hype around Lima. I mean, after watching some of his fights, I do think that the hype is somewhat warranted. You know, he's a solid striker, grappler, just very few weaknesses in his game. I think he's a really well-rounded fighter. I do believe that, you know, the weight difference here and I mean, he's fighting at 145 as opposed to 135 where he usually fights. I just feel like Lima has a better future at 135, and he's only just taking this as short notice to get in the UFC. You know, Lima's going to be the quicker fighter here, but I see a fair amount of grappling in this fight, and I just think that Naimov's size will be a huge factor down the stretch. Naimov also has the power advantage as well, and I see him being able to. I see him having more finishing equity here than Lima, so I actually see that this fight is probably going to go similar to how Naimov beat Nathaniel Wood. And Nathaniel Wood's a very similar fighter to Lima in size and stature, also somewhat a skill set as well. So I think Naimov's just going to be too big, too powerful for Lima, especially in his UFC debut, going up weight. Give me Naimov via decision. I wouldn't mind playing him at -125 right now. I don't think that's too bad, honestly. Yeah, I think that he's a solid play at those odds. Maybe he becomes a dog again though, and if he does become a dog again, I think that that could be pretty good play. But for now, I think minus 125 is a good play. Let's move on to the next fight. All right, so we have Nasrat Haqparast versus Jared Gordon. Looking at the odds right here, we got Nasrat at minus 240. He opened up at minus 240. So there's been some line movement, but it's been tiptoeing back and forth. Now it's back to where it opened. I got to go Nasrat here. I mean, I know that Jared Gordon is a popular dog this week that I see on social media at least. I just think that both of these fighters are pretty similar. They mainly like to box usually and fight pretty well in the pocket. They also have decent wrestling skills. I mean, I think Gordon's a better offensive grappler though. I'm just gonna have to pick Nasrat due to him being the younger fighter here. I mean, he just should have the speed and the quickness advantage here. He also has shown to have improving power as well. As seen in his last KO win over Jamie Malarkey. Gordon's also coming off a KO win, but I mean that was against a 39-year-old Marco Manson who shortly retired after that, and I think he's like doing his own fighting promotion. So yeah, I think that you know I do see a world where this could be a extremely close fight, and there could be a split decision. But even with this close decision looming, I think Nasrat should have more of a finishing equity here, especially Jared Gordon. I mean, this guy's 35. He was just kind of headbutt knocked out by Bobby Green, right? I mean, he's getting older. The chin could not be there anymore. So give me Nasrat. I feel like he's the younger fighter, has more finishing equity, more speed. I think that's enough for me to pick him in this matchup. Nasrat via KO is going to be my pick. And I would consider him as a parlay piece for now. Let's see what happens. Maybe the weigh-ins change things, but I do like the trajectory that Nasrat is going on as opposed to Jared Gordon when I see both of them fight. Let's move on to the next fight. So we're at the main card now. We have, well, actually, I did want to talk about one fight that was supposed to actually happen. It was Shara versus Antonio Trócoli. This is actually like a new fight that just got announced. So don't mind the Jalton Luderbach. I mean, he just literally pulled out. So this is that just happened like within the last hour. I did break down Trócoli because he was supposed to fight Ikram last week, and obviously I broke down Shara. I like Shara in this matchup. I mean, he should just be a absolute force on the feet here. To me, Shara is he just has so much of a pace and cardio. I think he's just gonna overwhelm Trócoli here. The one area of concern could be that Trócoli could use his grappling to hold Shara down, maybe find a sub. He has 5 sub wins in his career. But I do like that Shara showed a lot of fight in his last win over Bruno Silva. He was taken down multiple times, controlled for 6 minutes. He just kept on working his way back up and proceeded to double the amount of significant strikes against Bruno Silva. Trócoli also usually fights at 205, so I think Shara should be the quicker guy here, more skilled fighter here. I'm taking Shara via KO. Obviously, the lines haven't even dropped yet, I don't think, so we're going to have to wait for that, but let's say that he's the similar line that Jalton. I'll be more than happy to take him, but let's see what the line looks like. But for now, I'll pick Shara in that matchup. All right, let's move to the other fight that was always here. This is going to be opening up the main card. We have Johnny Walker versus Volkan Oezdemir. Looking at the odds for this fight, it should be an entertaining one for however long it lasts. Johnny Walker opened up at minus 180, and he got played to minus 110. So there was that flip at one point, but it's pretty undetermined, right? Not that strong of a signal there. Man, this fight could go a lot of different directions. I mean, both these guys, I don't know if you can trust them fully. For me, I'm gonna ride with Volkan here. There's just no way I can trust Johnny Walker in any fight. I mean, this guy is way too inconsistent to be trusted. Volkan can actually be low volume from time to time as well, but I find his kickboxing skills to be more technical and consistent than Johnny Walker's by a wide margin, actually. Volkan has a solid jab. He has some good low kicks. He can finish fights with his powerful hands, his powerful high kick. I think that Walker obviously will be the better athlete in the cage, but he's just always one low fight IQ move away from getting KO'd or hurt badly in this fight. So I gotta go with Volkan via KO here. I actually like him as a solid underdog play. I'm fading Johnny Walker this week. Yeah, so I'm on the Volkan side for this fight. Let's move on to the next fight here. So we already went through that. Let's talk about Kelvin Gastelum versus Daniel Rodriguez. So looking at the odds for this fight, we have Kelvin at minus 240. He opened up at minus 150. Some pretty clear, clean line movement there. I'm going with Kelvin here. Reason why, it's a lot of reasons actually, but for me, D-Rod, he does look a bit washed in his last few fights. Age 37, I mean, it makes sense. He's been through a lot of fights in his career. He's also coming off of like potentially 3 straight losses because the judges definitely gave him that split decision robbery win over Jing Lian Li. Lee won that matchup for sure. I think Kelvin should just have enough tools on the feet here, and on the ground to trouble D-Rod. I mean, Kelvin also has a granite chin. I don't think D-Rod's gonna knock him out, and he's gonna be in D-Rod's face. Even D-Rod lands these boxing strikes. Like Kelvin would just be in his face nonstop. I believe that Kelvin will break out the wrestling shoes here, especially after getting embarrassed by Sean Brady in the wrestling department. I think he's gonna make a point to the viewers that he has a good enough of a grappling skill set to remain at 170. So I just like the fact that Kelvin should have that covered. He also should have the better finishing potential here for me too, and that's just because of his durability, right? Kelvin's not going to get knocked out here, and D-Rod durability is a major question here. He just got KO'd, and he just got KO'd also or finished by Neil Magny in the previous fight before Ian Gary. So I'm going with Kelvin via decision. I can also see a finish here, but for now, I mean, I do see him as a parlay piece because I'm going to fade D-Rod here in this matchup. Let's move on to the next fight. We got the co-main event here. We got Sergey Pavlovich versus Alexander Volkov. This should be an entertaining, fun banger for as long as it lasts. Sergey minus 235 right now, opened up at a minus 210. I believe this is going to be the potential buy low on Sergey here, and maybe a sell high on Volkov. I mean, Sergey I think he's still the most dangerous boxer in terms of pure power in the division, and that loss to Tom Aspinall does not diminish his stock much to me. Aspinall is a freak athlete at heavyweight, and he moves like a 170er. Sergey was also still able to land some shots in that fight. And I think that punch or couple punches that he landed on Tom would have put a lot of people out. Sergey, he had the most trouble he had was dealing with Tom's quickness. And he's not going to have to deal with that against Volkov. I mean, Volkov is just a tall fighter, kind of lumbering at times. He's also going to have the longer reach than Volkov here. I think that Volkov, the only edge that he has in this fight is going to be in the grappling department. And I don't think that's going to be enough to finish or slow down Sergey much in this fight. Volkov is the more technical striker of the two. I'll give him that as well. But, Sergey at heavyweight, man, it doesn't really matter if you're technical. At that weight, it just matters if you have crazy power, have that finishing potential. I think Sergey has that. So I'm going with Sergey via KO here. I think he's a parlay piece for me. He's going to be a buy low for me as well. So yeah, give me Sergey via KO. All right, let's move on to the main event. So pure pickers, this is going to be a fun matchup. It was just made. It's supposed to be Hamza Chimaev versus Robert Whittaker, but now it's Robert Whittaker versus Ikram Aliskerov. Let's look at the odds for this fight right now. So we have Robert Whittaker minus 158, open up at a minus 180. Yeah, I got to go with my man Bobby McNuckles here. I mean, I was going to pick Hamzat. I thought Hamzat was going to probably sub him round 1 or 2, honestly, but I do like Robert Whittaker here. There seems to be a lot of doubt on Robert Whittaker so far, right? I mean, he has a lot of he has shown some signs of decline, right? But if you look at some of the people that he's been fighting in his career, he's been fighting absolute killers every fight in the last few years. He's only lost to champions as well. Lost to Izzy twice, and then lost to DDP. Those are both champions. The kind of guys that he's been fighting too. People say that Bobby Knuckles, Robert Whittaker doesn't have that power to go along with his skill set. I mean, he's fighting Marvin Vettori, fighting Cannonier, kind of tough guy to finish. Izzy is a tough guy to finish. DDP obviously. Yoel Romero. I mean, these are guys that are really tough to finish, in my opinion. And, I think that Robert Whittaker is going to show and remind people why he's on at the top of the food chain in that division. I mean, he's always a contender. Ikram, the reasons why I think I'm fading Ikram, just one too many red flags. I mean, this guy has gone from fighting Antonio Trócoli to Robert Whittaker, 3-round fight to a 5-round fight, Las Vegas to Saudi Arabia, cutting weight again. It's a lot of red flags here. It's going to be his first 5-round fight as well. I will say that Ikram does have potential to finish here. He has a lot of grappling upside in this matchup, but I mean, it's really good. It's going to be hard to do that to Robert Whittaker. I mean, the only person that's been able to do that to Robert Whittaker was DDP, and I don't see Ikram the same way as see DDP. I don't think there's going to be that much of a physical mismatch here. Like DDP is basically a light heavyweight fighting as a middleweight. Ikram is a more appropriately sized middleweight, and Whittaker is not the biggest middleweight too, but I think that both these guys are going to be similar size, but I think Whittaker is just going to be quicker than him, the better striker on the feet. And if the longer this fight goes, the better it goes for Whittaker as well. So the last piece that I will say is that Ikram, we know this guy has been finished before. He got finished by Hamzat by uppercut, and I think Robert Whittaker is going to remind people why he's on the top of that division, and he's going to finish with a KO here. So I like Whittaker via KO. I actually like him as a play here, minus 158. Maybe you want to parlay him with another, safe lock or safe piece. But yeah, give me Robert Whittaker in this matchup. That about does it for UFC Fight Night Saudi Arabia for the breakdown. I'm really excited for this fight card. I'm going to tune in pretty early. I believe it's going to be, according to ESPN, it's going to be 9 a.m. So definitely going to try to tune in and see what's up. But best of luck, everybody, peer pickers. Until next time.
Kiwi!